Good afternoon, everybody. Am I live? I think I'm live. Um, oh, here's our chair. Hold on just one second. All right, good afternoon, everybody. The time is now 2:40. I think the mic is on. Okay, great. Um, Good afternoon, fellow COC members, and to all the members of the public who have joined us here today. Today is Thursday, April 23rd, 2026. Welcome to the United to House LA Citizens Oversight Committee. It is now 2:40, as I just said. Before roll call, please afford me a few housekeeping comments. Speaker cards. For those wishing to make a public comment, if you haven't already done so, please take a public speaker card, fill it out, and hand it to one of the LAHD staff. Has that happened? Okay. So just making sure you heard, the speaker cards will go over to, yes, thank you. If you're joining the meeting virtually and would like to make a public comment, please refer to the instructions on the agenda on how to place yourself in the virtual queue. As always, we welcome and encourage public comment, as your voice is vital in how we shape our policies and direction. Thank you for all your commitment, and we want everyone to be heard. However, to ensure that the committee has ample time to vet and deliberate the issues on today's agenda, we request the following. If members of a group or organization are going to be repeating the same message, please consider, oh, okay, there's not many people here, but please consider picking one or two folks to communicate that message so that we end up with as much time as possible to discuss, among other things, your points. We want and need to hear from you, but we need to move forward with the work of ULA, and I ask you all to work with me to help make sure we can do that. Speaking time will be limited to 2 minutes per speaker. Oh, sorry. I
think it's better with no
echo. This one? Okay. Here. Do you want to go ahead and? Oh, finish that. Okay. Let me just finish up. Regarding translation, we will be using simultaneous interpretation to prevent interruptions to our speakers. If anyone in the audience needs or requires Spanish language interpretation for this meeting, please notify LAHD staff to obtain a headset. Those who are in person that do not speak Spanish will also need a headset for English interpretation. For those on Zoom that require interpretation, please select the appropriate language interpretation using the globe-shaped interpretation button, but only when you require it. Otherwise, please tune in to the main audio channel. For example, if you are in the Spanish language interpretation channel and there is a public comment in Spanish, you will need to switch to the main audio to hear in Spanish and vice versa. That concludes item 1. I'm going to item 2, which is roll call. And just after roll call, I'll hand it back over to our chair. Thank you so much. But ask City Attorney Michael Custodio to please take roll.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Chair call roll. Chairperson Jones. Vice Chair Coulter.
Here.
Committee Member Barca. Committee Member Ascora. Committee Member Barragan. Absent. Committee Member Saya. Absent. Committee Member Holland. Committee Member Knight. Committee Member Lewis. Committee Member Morales. Committee Member Nishimoto. Committee Member Reed. Committee Member Romero. Committee Member Rout. 6. There are 6 per bylaws. We have quorum.
So much, and I appreciate you, Vice Chair. Next, we will move on to public comment, which is item number 3. And if there's anyone that wants to make a public comment or has turned in a speaker card, in person, we're ready to start. You're welcome.
I will call the first speaker, Devin Woodfine. 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, everyone. I shared an article with you recently about the increase of complaints. It's now up to 23,000 complaints within the city of Los Angeles. And for the first time, a landlord in downtown Los Angeles is going to be criminally charged by the city attorney's office. So from last year, that has made some changes, but again, it's still not enough. And I also wanted to say, even though I beat my eviction last month, the owner gave me another 3-day notice, and he was in violation of what the judge decided. He has not actually taken us to court, so just another form of harassment. And as you guys continue to work, I want you to understand it's continuous and it never ends. The only way that we can ever see real justice is if we use that Tahoe task force to enforce punishment, citations, and whether it's civil or criminal charges for owners who are intentionally trying to harm tenants in every manner. And they're abusing the port systems, they're abusing state house funding, the fact that I was a recipient of money that you guys are funding, and it was a frivolous lawsuit, and now he's trying to bring up an issue that was decided in court is something that's a waste of your resources, the city resources, and our time. We need to be able to punish and make sure that we aren't rehashing things that were already awarded in a tenant's favor. Thank you.
Next speakers, I will call a handful of you at the same time, but obviously you guys will speak separately. Isabella Puga, Maria Saavedra, Maria Varela, Jorge Estrada, Marcela Garcia.
Are you gonna, I can do it too. Yeah. I'll do it. Yeah. So just pausa acá para hacerlos para que la traducción.
Hola, buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es María Saavedra.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Maria Saavedra.
Yo vengo en representación de mi comunidad, de los proyectos, y vengo a alzar la voz por ellos para que nos tomen en cuenta sobre la petición que les vamos a hacer.
I'm here representing my community of public housing, and I'm here to raise my voice so that you can listen to us for the petition or the ask we have for you.
Venimos para pedirles, por favor, que no usen los fondos de ULA para demoler viviendas públicas.
We're asking you to not appropriate any ULA funding for demolition of public housing,
ya que nuestra comunidad va a ser muy afectada referente a esos proyectos que están haciendo.
because our community is also a public housing community, and we are all affected when public housing gets demolished. We're all going to be very affected.
Desafortunadamente, nuestra comunidad de bajos recursos va a ser la afectada con esto que están iniciando, con esos proyectos que tienen.
Unfortunately, it is the low-income renters who suffer when they do public housing redevelopment without involving the residents.
Ya que quieren o han hecho de los fondos de ULA para demoler viviendas públicas.
So please don't use any ULA funds to demolish public housing.
Desafortunadamente, los ricos son los que se están beneficiando de nuestra comunidad de bajos recursos.
Unfortunately, it is wealthy people who benefit from our low-income communities.
Yo quisiera, ustedes mujeres guerreras que las veo ahí sentadas y las admiro a todas ustedes, que yo quisiera ser como ustedes. Mi admiración para ustedes, y quisiera con todo mi corazón que tomen en cuenta nuestra comunidad de los proyectos para que los apoyen, para que no hagan lo que quieren hacer con nuestra comunidad de bajos recursos.
So I'm looking at you, all the beautiful warrior women who are sitting up there, and I hope one day to be like you. I hope you take us into account and you don't demolish the projects.
Mujeres y hombres guerreros que están ahí sentadas, mi agradecimiento por escucharme y les deseo lo mejor de lo mejor y buena tarde y que luchen por las personas de bajos recursos. Gracias, bendiciones.
Warrior men and women who are here, sitting here, I hope you will stand with us and fight for low-income communities like ours. Thank you so much.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Muy buenas tardes, mi nombre es Jorge Alberto Estrada. Vengo representando a la comunidad de proyectos y se ha escuchado de muchas personas que viven en las calles, viven debajo de los puentes y eso no creo que sea justo.
Hello, my name is Jorge Luis Estrada. I'm here to represent the community of public housing residents and all the people who are sleeping on the streets because we don't have enough housing. That's not fair.
Hay personas mayores, enfermas, hay niños que no creo justo que los dejen vivir en los puentes. Ahorita que veníamos miramos varias personas ahí en los puentes y eso no es justo. En lugar de ponerse a fincar, a hacer cosas, deberían de apoyar a esa gente que necesita.
There's a lot of people sleeping on the streets in our city and under bridges, and we should be doing more to help them.
Y pues sí, eso era mi urgencia de venir para darles a conocer todo lo que andamos luchando y hay que luchar para que esas personas no se... Y les pido que por favor corrijan ese error para que muchas sean utilizadas para los que es... nunca más sea utilizada para demoler viviendas públicas. A lo contrario, si va a fincar, que finque, pero que no demuela las viviendas públicas, porque la gente se va a destruir, la gente, hay niños enfermos, como decía anteriormente, y personas mayores.
So that's my main reason for coming here today. We're asking you to please correct the error and ensure that ULA is never again used to demolish public housing because it is devastating for our communities. It separates us from our neighbors, and there's kids in our communities, kids who are disabled, and we don't want that to happen. Yeah.
Es muy triste mirar todas esas personas sufriendo, enfermas y llorando porque están esperando solamente la sorpresa de que les van a llegar la carta de desalojo y eso es muy, muy triste y discriminatorio para toda gente. Así que por favor apoyemos a todas esas personas en lugar de demolerlos, construyamos nuevos y dejemos a las personas viviendo en sus departamentos.
So we're asking you to, if you want to build more, but don't demolish public housing in order to do that. There's a lot of people who need support in the projects and are right now in fear of being evicted by what's happening federally. So there's just a lot going on and people are afraid and they don't want to be surprised by another thing. So thank you.
Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes. También yo estoy preocupada que ULA vaya a hacer esta demolición de apartamentos. Hay mucha gente que anda en la calle y yo les pido que se toquen el corazón de que no hagan esto. Porque anda mucha gente en la calle enferma, hay gente con cáncer, niños con cáncer. Y es una tristeza ver a la gente como anda ahorita.
I too am also worried that ULA is being used to fund public housing demolition. There's a lot of people who are suffering on the streets right now, and I hope that we will touch your heart so that you will support us.
Y también estoy mal de acuerdo con las gentes mixtas que le aumentan a uno mucho la renta y no hay trabajo para uno. Y a uno le están aumentando mucho la renta y uno vive estresado por la renta y la comida tan cara, todo muy caro y sin trabajar. Y yo quisiera que se tocaran el corazón.
I'm particularly concerned about the mixed status and mixed immigration status families living in public housing who get charged more in rent. And right now, everything is really expensive. And this would just destabilize their lives on top of everything that's going on. So I'm hoping that this will touch your heart.
Y pues es todo lo que quería decirles, ¿verdad? Que se toquen el corazón por que hagan más apartamentos para la gente que anda en la calle, porque anda mucha gente sin trabajar. Y es una tristeza ver cómo está viviendo la gente en el freeway y en la calle. Ahí en Pacoima hay mucha gente en la calle. Y donde quiera está muy feo esto, muy triste, me da mucha tristeza. Y eso también de las rentas altas no está bien, porque si no hay ingreso no podemos pagar más y nos están cobrando más a los que no tenemos familias mixtas. Y eso es lo que yo quería decir, es todo lo que quería decirles, que por favor se las hablan del corazón.
So that's all I want to say. Just asking you to please build more housing for the people who are sleeping on the streets without demolishing public housing. There's a lot of people suffering. It's really sad. And I hope that this will touch your heart and that's all I wanted to say today. Thank you.
Y en vez de que remuelan los edificios, queremos que hagan más para la gente que está en la calle.
So instead of demolishing public housing, we should be building more public housing for the folks on the streets.
Sí, muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Buenas tardes. Yo soy Isabel Puga y estoy aquí en representación de mi comunidad San Fernando Gardens. Y estoy en desacuerdo que los fondos que fueron destinados para construir más viviendas públicas se usen para demolerlas. Nosotros junto a más personas unidas hemos logrado que se donaran fondos para construir viviendas públicas y no es justo que echen por la borda todo el esfuerzo que las comunidades invirtieron para esos fondos, que se utilicen para construir más viviendas asequibles y no aumente el número de personas viviendo en las calles. No es justo, tengan consideración y construyan más viviendas públicas de bajos recursos. Muchas gracias por su atención.
Hello, my name is Isabel Puga, and I'm here representing my community of San Fernando Gardens. I'm completely opposed to funding that was destined to build more public housing that is now being used to demolish public housing. We worked very hard in order to get the funding for ULA in order to build more public housing. And it's not fair that you are throwing away all of our hard work from the community and all the effort that we put into it. We want these funds to be invested to build more low-income housing so that the number of people sleeping on the streets does not go up. It's not fair. Please have consideration. Build more public housing for low-income families. Thank you for your attention.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es María Varela y vengo de San Fernando Gardens. Soy residente de Jacla y estoy aquí porque tengo una preocupación. Les pido que por favor corrijan este error para que ULA nunca más sea utilizada para demoler viviendas públicas. Cualquier fondo para este desarrollo de viviendas públicas son fondos para destrucción de viviendas públicas, lo que nos separa de nuestras comunidades y es devastador para nosotros, los residentes. No a la demolición y vivienda pública, sí. Gracias.
So, hi, I'm also here with a concern. I'm a public housing resident. I've lived in San Fernando Gardens. I'm a HACLA resident. And I'm asking you to please correct this error so that ULA is never again used to demolish public housing. Any fund for redevelopment of public housing is funding for destruction of public housing, which will separate us from our communities, and it's devastating for public housing residents. No more demolitions, more public housing. Thank you.
Thank you. I will call up the next set of speakers. Juanito Jimenez, Estela Diaz, Maria Bautista, and Jose Estrada.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es María Bautista. Les pido por favor que corrijan el error de que el dinero que es de ULA se ha otorgado para desarrollo para viviendas públicas. Necesitamos más viviendas, no más destrucción. Queremos ciudades seguras, de más acceso a las familias que viven en las calles. Si destruyen más viviendas, ¿a dónde vamos a ir a vivir nosotros?
So, hi, my name is Maria Bautista. I'm also a public housing resident, and I'm asking you to please correct this error of ULA having been assigned to demolish public housing. Those funds are for quote unquote redevelopment, which is a demolition. We want you to create more public housing. We need more public housing, and we want safe cities where that families can afford and can access and not be living on the streets.
Por favor, piensen en las comunidades más pobres, en las comunidades que necesitan apoyo. La mayoría de nosotros, que algunas veces sentimos que vamos a ser desalojados de nuestras viviendas, necesitamos tener un lugar seguro para nuestros hijos. Por favor, piensen en nuestros hijos.
If we keep demolishing public housing, eventually where will we go? Please think of the communities. Right now, there's a lot of people that are under a lot of stress, under fear that they're going to be served with an eviction notice at any moment. So we think of the poor communities in the city, and we ask you to please support us.
Gracias. Bendiciones.
Thank you.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Juan Jiménez. Vengo en representación de mi comunidad y a decirles que por favor piensen un poco en nosotros, de los de la tercera edad, que lo que el Seguro Social me da son $15,000 al año. ¿Podrían ustedes vivir fuera de los proyectos con esa cantidad de dinero? Si hacen la demolición, ¿a dónde vamos a dar todos? Así es que por favor piensen un poco en nosotros, los de la tercera edad, que no tenemos a dónde ir si nos quitan los proyectos donde vivimos.
So my name is Juan. I'm also here representing my community, and I'm concerned about the funding that's being used to demolish public housing. Think about the seniors, like myself. There's a lot of seniors living in public housing, and if you keep demolishing our homes, eventually where will we go? We cannot afford a rent outside of public housing. Oh, and so thank you so much. I hope that you will support us.
Thank you.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es María Estela Díaz. Vengo aquí en representación de Mar Vista Garden y estoy en contra de la demolición. Ese dinero debe de utilizarse para construir más viviendas para nuestra gente. Hay mucha gente viviendo en las calles. Por favor, queremos pedirles que tomen conciencia de ello. No se nos hace justo que ese dinero se esté utilizando o se piense utilizar para otras cosas. Es todo. Muchas gracias.
Oh, hello, my name is Estela Diaz. I'm from Mar Vista Gardens, and I'm here also to voice my concerns about ULA funding being used to demolish public housing. That funding, that we're concerned that funding should be used to be building more public housing, not less. Everything is really expensive right now, and where will we go if you keep demolishing our homes? Thank you.
Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es José Estrada, soy residente de vivienda pública. Cuando se creó ULA es porque se tiene esperanzas en que amorticemos el problema de que mucha gente está durmiendo en las calles.
Hello, my name is José Estrada. Sorry, I was trying to use the translation app to help me, but my name is Jose. I'm also a public housing resident and organizer. Oh yeah, when we fought for ULA, sorry, we were fighting with the hope that we would have the resources in order to address the housing crisis.
Y muchos hemos luchado para que obtuviéramos fondos para construir más viviendas y mitigar el problema de la falta de viviendas.
And we were all hoping that we would use this funding to build more public housing and address the lack of housing in the city.
Entonces, ¿saben ustedes que ahorita mal contado en Estados Unidos hay un déficit de 10 millones de vivienda? 10 millones de vivienda. Y supuestamente con estos fondos nosotros podemos hacer más viviendas accesibles. Gracias.
Did you know that right now we have a national shortage of over 10 million homes in the country? And we could be using this funding to be building more public housing.
Para finalizar, solo decirles que un llamado a la conciencia de ustedes, que cuando caminan en las calles de Los Ángeles, ustedes ven muchas familias y cada día hay más familias durmiendo en las banquetas, debajo de los puentes. Entonces, toquémonos el corazón y digamos, vamos a construir más viviendas para muchas familias que lo necesitan. Así que es un llamado y una reflexión de viviendas públicas. Así que los fondos deben de ser para lo que debe de ser, pero no podemos estar, imagínense ustedes qué barbaridad, gastar el dinero en demoler viviendas y luego hacer nuevas viviendas. No, hombre, eso es ilógico. Hagamos viviendas para la gente que la necesita y utilizar los fondos para lo que es. Muchas gracias.
So a message to you all, you all see it when you walk out the streets, out on the streets of the city. There's a lot of people sleeping on the streets. It's really sad. I hope that it touches your heart. And we should be using this money to be building more public housing. We don't need to demolish public housing in order to build more housing. Imagine what a waste of money that is. We should be using these funds for what they were intended to be used for. Thank you.
If there's no other speakers in the room, we can go ahead and move to virtual comments. Are there any speakers in queue?
Nothing in queue at the moment.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you to all that has come out today to inform us of what's going on in your community. We will close on public comment and we will address your questions and concerns. Also, I'd like to move to the chair's report, which is item number 4. Okay, well, first I'd like our vice chair to speak.
So I too would like to thank those that gave public comment today. We'll hear more about all of this during LAHD's report, and so we'll come back to the topic. So as part of my vice chair report, last week I attended the ULA Ad Hoc Committee meeting at City Council. During this meeting, we heard from many members of the public, LHD staff, and experts in the field, and we want to reiterate our gratitude for all of the Angelinos engaging in discussions surrounding Measure ULA. It has come to our attention that a key issue surrounding implementation is lack of capacity with LHD due to a lack of staff. In November, the COC approved the Permanent Inspector General Staffing Plan. We transmitted this support in a motion letter to the council dated November 20th, 2025. This month, the chair and vice chair plan to send an additional letter to council urging the necessity of fully staffing up the office of the Permanent Inspector General to fully implement Measure ULA. Sorry, I went through that kind of quickly. I just want to reiterate what I'm saying is that we, in November, said to City Council, hey, we need our permanent IIG staffing, and that has been approved. And just this morning, the position has been posted. I'm saying it that way. Yes, the position has been posted. And so we're very pleased that that has happened. Regarding the staffing, though, we want to We're also planning to submit a letter to the Budget Committee advocating for all 107 requested positions, 107 ULA requested positions to be included in the budget. This is because the city's hiring process takes an average of 6 to 9 months. And we're already seeing that LHD staff that's working on LA are working at unsustainable and unintended levels. And so ULA comes with administrative funds, and we have every incentive to deploy them for ULA and the city's success. And so we will be reiterating that point with Budget Committee.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair. That closes this report and item number 4. Next, we'll open item number 5, which is our ad hoc report. Let me first report back from the Communications, the Outreach, and the Education Ad Hoc Committee. The Communications and the Outreach and the Education Committee has not met since our last full COC meeting, but continues to work offline, and we will start getting information out on social media. We will have pages and we will have the updates on the communications and our plan for the COC website, and also communicate with Los Angeles Housing Department regarding press outreach, and also any other updates that come about. We have made a new page on our COC website. And just to reiterate, our website is ulacoc.org. I'm going to repeat that again for the public. That's ulacoc.org. And the ad hoc committee has assignments to the public to follow to our fellow commissioners, so we can easily access and those who want to be seated on those committees. Also, we are finalizing our Google form for the people to submit testimonials receiving ULA funding or ULA funded services that we can share on our social media pages. And we encourage all of the public to do that as well. We have made a LinkedIn page for our COC, and we would like to share our seat openings when we have vacancies within the COC. The permanent IG job posting again was this morning. We're very happy about that, and all relevant information that regards the ULA COC. Also, we'd like to coordinate with the Governance Ad Hoc Committee and the Los Angeles Housing Department to post relevant information about positions. Next, I would like to have the person report back with the Governance Ad Hoc Committee. That would be you. Thank you, Vice Chair.
Sure. The Governance Ad Hoc Committee has not met since the last COC meeting. The next committee meeting is on May 4th. May the 4th be with us. The committee is currently coordinating with LHD regarding hiring the permanent Inspector General and the budgeting process, and we will meet next week to discuss. Back to you, Shannon.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And next, we will have a report back from our Programs Evaluation Ad Hoc Committee.
So I think that's also me. The Program Evaluation Ad Hoc Committee has met one time since the last COC meeting. The committee is working with LAHD to finalize a scope for the evaluator, and will meet in the coming weeks to discuss the Tahoe questions, metrics, and to continue fleshing out the process and criteria for the evaluation. So just to be clear, the first program to be evaluated is the Tahoe program. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you so much. And finally, the Policy Amendment Ad Hoc Committee has not met since our last meeting, but plans to engage in business from the Policy Amendment Review Ad Hoc, and it will be discussed during item 10 on this particular agenda. So with that report, I'd like to conclude item number 5 and move on to item number 6, which is our Interim Inspector General report. Thank you. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair Jones. So I just wanted to update the group that, as you all know, the IIG submitted our contract extension a few months ago, and LAHD is still working to finalize that contract with the city. So we're still in progress with that. And then just an update in regard to the member stipends. So we have heard the need and the urgency surrounding requests for stipend payments, and we are currently coordinating with LAHD to issue payments in a different payment mechanism than through our contract. So earlier this week, I sent around requests to each member for your W-9s. So please complete these forms. I can follow up individually, and then we will work with you on that. Thank you all for your flexibility and hard work on this matter, and I'll pass it back to you, Chair Jones.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Now, with those reports, we will close item number 6. We will move on to item number 7, which is our wonderful Los Angeles Housing Department report. You have the floor. Green light. Push chart.
How about now?
Yes.
Okay, it's flashing at me, but maybe that means it works. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Callie Hardy, Director of Strategic Engagement and Policy with LAHD. I want to address some of the comments that came up during public comment, but if it's up with the committee, maybe I'll start with just a quick run through of our kind of regular updates, because we do have a full presentation on the results of the NOFA, and perhaps we can speak to some of the public comments that came up as well during that portion of the presentation. So in terms of the regular updates that we have today, hoping it's somewhat brief, and then I will pass it over to Hannah Levian, who joined us last month, a member of our Housing Development Bureau, who can walk us through some of the detailed results of the Homes for LA NOFA funding award recommendations. So starting with very, very brief update on revenues and expenditures to date. As I noted in our last meeting, we have started to transition the format of this report. Hopefully that's working for you all, but welcome feedback on better ways to present information to you. So the detailed budget to actuals tables are provided as part of the agenda packet at the end of the presentation slides for this item, but I'm not going to use our time to kind of walk through them line by line. But starting with revenue, we are now at over 1.14 billion in total revenue since collection of the ULA tax began, with nearly 1,600 transactions. And I'll draw your attention to that sort of dip on the far right of the chart on this slide. You can see that our last 2 months of revenue collection have been coming in slightly lower than our prior trend, averaging closer to about $27 million a month over the last 2 months. So that's March and February revenues. And we're continuing to track that trend and, keep a close eye on that as the months, roll by. Looking at expenditures, we do have one spotlight that we wanted to highlight for the committee for this month, which is the Grace Villas project. This is a 48-unit affordable housing development project located on city-owned land, which drew down on its funding award for the first time in the month of March in the amount of $1.4 million in ULA expenditures. So really great to see progress moving forward on this particular project. It's located in the Lincoln Heights neighborhood and was funded with Accelerator Plus via the Accelerator Plus program, which is the ULA multifamily housing funded by the ULA multifamily affordable housing program, and is expected to complete construction by the end of the year. Yes.
Who was the developer? That was the question.
I'll find out right now. Give us one moment and we'll let you know. Thank you. And then it's great. I'll cover a couple of quick updates while we're looking that up, and then I'll circle back. First, just a couple of timely updates on the staffing and the budget front, as there were two really key pieces of movement this week that I want to share with the committee. Okay, I have confirmation from the team. Sorry, the Grace Villas project, the project sponsor is Works. Yeah. Okay, so back to where I was. Sorry. So two updates on the budget and the staffing front. So on Tuesday, the City Council approved our exemption request for the Permanent Inspector General position. And as a reminder, this exemption request was necessary to allow us to complete the creation of the position and begin with the hiring process. And actually really exciting progress on this front. This morning, the personnel department posted that job bulletin. So we're now actively recruiting for the role of our permanent inspector general. And our application period will be open for a period of 3 weeks. So we've given folks until Thursday, I should put that in my notes. Thursday, May 7th. No, May 14th, 3 weeks. To submit their application. So I really encourage everyone to help us get the word out. This has been posted on the personnel website, and we're working on publishing in additional locations as was recommended by the Governance Ad Hoc Committee. And then yeah, and we'll continue to work with the Governance Ad Hoc Committee as we prepare for the next steps in that hiring process, including, of course, preparing for our interview panel with the representatives here from the COC. And then additionally, this week, the mayor released her proposed budget for fiscal year 26-27. And as we've previously shared with this committee, in our budget request to the mayor's office, the department submitted a request for the remaining ULA funded staff positions that were not approved by the City Council via the ULA staffing plan earlier this year, and are very, very pleased to report that the mayor's budget includes a total of 67 ULA staffing positions, including the continuation of the 44 positions that were approved by City Council just a few months back, as well as the addition of 23 new positions, bringing that total to 67. And those new positions will provide us the resources necessary to help sustain and grow our ULA funded programming, support the department's ability to effectively implement and administer the funding. And I'll just note, so that's a total of 67 out of the initial 107 that was part of our ULA staffing plan that was looking at that comprehensive assessment, the resources that would be needed. So a delta of 40 positions that we're continuing to advocate for as we move through the budget process. And kind of the next steps in that process, the Budget and Finance Committee of the City Council is now considering the mayor's proposed budget. And the department's budget hearing before the committee is scheduled for next Tuesday, April 28th. And so we'll certainly have more to share with the committee as we move through the budget process. And then some additional updates. Since we last met, we've seen some very exciting on the ULA Emergency Income Support Program as well. On April 10th, LAHD and CIFD launched the next round of the ULA Income Support Program, which will distribute approximately $13.7 million in ULA funding to extremely low income and very low income renter households that have a senior and/or a person with disability that are currently at risk of experiencing homelessness. And as recommended by this committee and was approved by the City Council and the mayor, this round of funding will prioritize households that were impacted by the recent local emergencies, as well as households that are extremely low income, meaning that their incomes are 30% or less of the area median income. They're severely rent burdened, meaning that they pay 50% or more of their monthly income on rent, and they live in a rent stabilized unit. In total, we expect about 1,000 households will be assisted through this program, receiving up to $19,000 in unrestricted financial assistance based on their household size. And so applications are now open, and they're open. We have
Need a new one? There's a spare right here.
Does he? Sorry.
Okay, is this one better?
Yes.
Sounds better anyway. So yes, applications are now available online. Resources are available in multiple languages as well. There's a QR code and a link on this slide, but the URL is goforward.live/ULA-ISP. And it's GOFWD.live /ULA-ISP. So please help share with your networks, help us get the word out about this great opportunity to provide much needed support. As of today, we've received about 1,000 applications to the program, and the deadline to apply will be is a week from today, so next Thursday, April 30th. And then my last couple of notes before we talk about the NOFA is just a circle back to some of the questions that were asked at our last meeting, and specifically a request for some more detailed information about the ULA Homeownership Opportunities Program. And so the next two slides in your packet show some screenshots from the data dashboard that we've created for the program that's still been in development. And we have not yet launched this dashboard publicly in order to protect the privacy and identity of the individual program participants, because right now there are about 25 households within this, and so we're waiting to release this interactive format dashboard until we have a bit more data points as part of this dashboard. But happy to be able to share a preview of this information now with you all, and hope to launch within the coming months. But high level, to walk through this, what you can see is that we've executed a total of 25 loans. These are first-time loans for first-time homeowners. And Council District 3, looking at the bar chart on the left, represents the district in the city that has had the most loans, but we've seen loans issued in nearly every district within the city. And we've also seen approximately 70% of the loans located in lower resource areas of the city, which likely is because the home prices are more affordable in those areas. Additionally, the majority of the homes purchased are single-family homes, and then we have some demographic data here as well about the households that have qualified for the program. So about 56% participants identify as Hispanic, 12% Asian, 12% Black, and 8% white. And not shown on this, but something that we're also working on prior to launch is additional information on the gender. So 50% of the loans have been to households that are a single female borrower, 25% single male, and about 21% to multiple borrowers. So that just to share a little bit more data on the program. Again, this is a work in progress and looking forward to having more reporting available, but just a preview of some of the types of information that we're looking to have available. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Hannah Levian to talk about the Homes for LA NOFA.
Hello. Cool. All right. I want to start by saying thank you to those of you who were in council last week to be present when this got heard at the ULA Ad Hoc Committee meeting. But anyway, good afternoon, committee members. My name is Hannah Levian, Housing Program Manager in the Housing Development Bureau at the Los Angeles Housing Department. I was here last time. Thanks for having me again. I'm excited to be here to provide a timely update on the Homes for LA NOFA, which, as a reminder, is a $360 million effort resulting in financial awards to 80 affordable housing developments to support a total of 5,241 units And yes, actually, I'm gonna go back. Sorry. So since we last met about a month ago, the department's recommended funding awardees for round one of the Homes for LA NOFA, which have been released and considered by the ULA Ad Hoc Committee as of last week on Friday, April 17th, and are now being forwarded to the full city council for review and approval. So today I would like to share with all of you the results of the NOFA and a little bit about the next steps for the awardees and future rounds of the program. But before I really dive in, I want to give you all a little bit of context. So this NOFA, as many of you already know, represents the city's largest ever investment in affordable housing. It also marks the official launch of many of our ULA affordable housing programs, including the first major programs aimed at preserving our existing stock of affordable housing and the first time resources that have been made available to provide operating support to help stabilize affordable housing. This effort has also been nearly 3 years in the making, as many of you know, starting with the creation of the ULA program guidelines that were developed by this body and adopted by City Council in December of 2024. Those guidelines built upon the statutory requirements contained within the measure and provide the framework and key parameters for implementation of all of these programs that you're going to hear about. These parameters were then carried forward in the development of the Homes for LA NOFA regulations. And here we are today. Okay. So a little bit about the funding programs included in the NOFA. As a reminder, there are 5 ULA affordable housing programs included in this NOFA, and those are on the screen here. So the ULA Multifamily Affordable Housing Program supports development of affordable housing, new construction, affordable housing, maximizing the production of those units by leveraging tax credits. And the ULA Alt Models New Construction Program, which facilitates the development of affordable housing via social housing models that prioritize tenant governance and deep affordability. And then diving into the preservation section here now. So the ULA Acquisition and Rehab Program, which provides capital funding to preserve existing at-risk affordable housing with expiring covenants. And then the ULA Alt Models Preservation Program, which provides capital funding to preserve at-risk affordable housing facing loss of affordability due to financial distress. They sound similar. They are slightly different. You all probably know that. And then finally, the ULA Operating Assistance Program, which stands on its own, which stabilizes existing affordable housing by providing emergency operating assistance to properties experiencing short-term economic shocks. To note, and beyond the ULA programs, this NOFA also includes the Pooled Sources Program, which includes term sheets and program infrastructure for both new construction and preservation activities. This is formerly known as the Housing Department's Affordable Housing Managed Pipeline and includes funding sources from our federal partners at HUD, the state through Senate Bill 2, and then our linkage fee. Timeline and process. How did we get here? What happened? So a little bit, again, of context around scale. So in the past years, the department had 2 signature NOFA programs. This included our Affordable Housing Managed Pipeline, which I just mentioned, which is now retired, and HHH. Typically, the Affordable Housing Managed Pipeline would issue between $60 and $70 million per year and awarded roughly 10 to 12 projects annually. HHH passed by the voters, provided a $1.2 billion in bond revenue in order to finance units over a 10-year period. So roughly, if you want to break it up into 10 years, $120 million annually over the course of that 10 years, roughly 10,000 new units of PSH. So roughly 1,000 units per year. This NOFA, which the department intends to issue twice annually as stipulated by the guidelines, administered over $360 million in funds and awarded 5,241 units of affordable and supportive housing. This includes both preservation and new unit production. I'll get to that breakdown later in the presentation. So numbers here, this NOFA administered at least 6 times as much as a typical affordable housing managed pipeline solicitation, in which the last one occurred in 2021, and 3 times as much funding in a typical year of HHH. 9 months elapsed between council's approval of the guidelines that you all led and the department's opening of the NOFA. I'm not going to get into all the details, but I'll give you kind of a high level of what happened during that period. So through those 9 months, the department developed regulations to align with the new programs described in the guidelines, sought stakeholder feedback on these regulations, created application infrastructure, including the development of new underwriting guidelines and the establishment of several communication channels between the department and applicants, underwrote and scored projects, processed appeals, selected awardees based on council-approved scoring criteria, and of course, the approved regulations. It sounds like a very short period of time when I say it out loud, but that was a lot of work in 9 months. The department assembled the final list of awardees following the appeals period. That appeals period was 7 calendar days. And the proposed awardees currently before council represent the culmination of that work. The department is drafting the award letters right now and will issue them upon council approval with mayor concurrence to the awardees. And that's the timeline for visual purposes. So I'm going to talk now about the applications received. Should I keep going? Okay. Oh, no, sorry. Okay. So the department received a total of 174 applications across all of the 7 programs, amounting to a total request of $1.6 billion. By contrast, the NOFA made available just under $394 million in funding. Despite this being a historic level of funding availability, demand outpaced available resources by a factor of 4 to 1. This reflects robust demand for the types of programs provided in the NOFA and a strong readiness among the development community in the city to meet the housing needs that we have. The more funding available, the more we are able to respond to this demand. Of the 174 applications received across all the programs, 149 of those applications were to ULA programs, and the difference were to the pooled sources program. The most oversubscribed program in this NOFA was the ULA multifamily program, followed by the ULA alt models new construction program. ULA, and I think pooled sources was third. ULA operating assistance was the only undersubscribed program. And I'm going to go over a couple ideas we have on program guideline changes to not let that happen again. And we need your thoughts as well. This is just a quick summary slide of information I just talked about. Yep, I'm going to go on to the next one. So funding awards summary, I'll get digging into the details a little bit more here. So as a result of this NOFA, the department recommends funding awards for a total of 80 projects. 77 of those 80 are ULA funded, and the remaining 3 are pooled sources. In total, these 80 projects represent 5,241 units, new and preserved affordable housing. This slide shows the breakdown of proposed funding awards by program, the number of units projected to be financed by program category. Both alternative models programs included first scoring priority for projects sponsored by community land trusts, as this body well knows, resulting in a total of 5 CLT sponsored projects or 279 units through this funding round, totaling $126.6 million in proposed award from us. The recommendations in this report would obligate $360.9 million to support a total of 5,241 units across those 80 projects, including, and in that 5,241, 1,528 new construction and 3,713 preserved or stabilized. Beyond supporting the creation and preservation of housing, the funding will support the creation of high quality construction jobs. That is because projects constructed with this funding, as you all know, will in many cases include a project labor agreement, and all construction work will be done in accordance with prevailing wage requirements, as has been the business of LHD since I've been here last 4 years. So between the ULA alt models subprograms, new construction and preservation, given the applications that passed threshold review, we saw a higher demand for competitive new construction projects compared to the preservation projects. Therefore, and you would see this in the transmittal that's publicly available, the department proposes to council to reallocate $30.2 million from the alt models preservation program to new construction in order to fund additional projects this round. There is still a need for preservation funding to be allocated and made available in subsequent rounds. However, and I'll talk a little bit about this in a few slides, there are program modifications that we believe should take place in order for there to be more projects that are competitive for the alt models preservation bucket. So we can not make that change next time and have more preservation projects. Finally, all remaining funds will be rolled into the next round of the SNOFA with the intention of awarding financially feasible projects and strategically deploying capital into assets that the department believes will sustain financial longevity. Yes, okay. Almost done. So this slide breaks down where the awards are by council district. So an element of the scoring for new construction projects did include a 5-point boost for projects located within the high opportunity areas on the TCAC opportunity maps. This was intended to align with the city's focus on promoting affordable housing opportunities in these high resource areas, supporting the affirmatively furthering fair housing goals that the city is committed to. Aside from that scoring element, the department did not apply any sort of geographic priority for applications in this NOFA round. The resulting project locations across the Homes for LA awardees were driven by the development community applying for the funds, as well as the competitiveness for each application. Okay, so looking ahead, and then I also wanted to address some of the comments that were made in public comment after this. So maybe not almost done. What's happening next? So the total amount of funding is for the next round is still subject to approval given the forthcoming expenditure plan for 26-27 for both ULA and the city's direct allocation of LAHSA funding. However, we are confident when we say that the available amount of funding expected is comparable to round one after considering existing available funding and forecasts for the upcoming fiscal year. For the pooled sources bucket, that may change a little bit. Given that this is the first time we launched many of these programs and that we made significant changes to the NOFA process with this round, the department has actively sought feedback and will continue to seek feedback from you, from the community here, and others. Can talk more about that too. The department intends to begin offering listening sessions with stakeholders, hopefully as soon as council approves the awardees for round one. In addition to that process, the department has identified the need to amend some technical changes to the ULA program guidelines that we touch on a little bit in the transmittal, but I'll briefly talk about here. We believe that this will improve the implementation of ULA programs, as I said earlier. So as the COC, is the body charged with identifying recommendations to program guidelines, the department will be working with you to develop these amendments for consideration by the council. So some of these initial amendments include, but are not limited to, transitioning the operating assistance program from a loan structure to a grant structure in order to reduce some of the financial burden on already struggling projects. This is also something that was requested and has been advocated for by the Supportive Housing Alliance. Second, removing the 60-year loan term requirement for the alt models program projects in order to align with existing traditional loan terms. That doesn't have anything to do with the affordability requirements. It's just the loan term. And then finally, and I touched on this earlier, but revising or revisiting the fully amortizing requirement for the alt models preservation program as a threshold requirement in order to increase the qualifying number of projects. Without getting into too much detail, because it's sensitive application information, there were several projects that would have been competitive, but they couldn't meet the debt service requirements to be to align with the fully amortizing requirement in the guidelines. So that's why you saw the movement of the 30 million from new construction, from preservation to new construction. So anyway, we look forward to to working with you all on making these changes, hopefully, and then others as you see fit. Okay, recommendations before the city council. So, and next steps for real. So LHD's recommendation report was considered and approved by the ULA Ad Hoc Committee last Friday on April 17th. We are currently pending scheduling for consideration before the full city council, which we hope will happen this coming week. This would complete the city council's approval of the recommendations outlined in the report that will approve the proposed awardees for the financing of these 80 projects in the first round of funding for the NOFA. What that means for us in terms of implementation is that the department will issue award letters first, and then we will then have the authority to begin executing loan documents for projects that are ready to go. The department expects operating assistance projects and some of the alt models preservation projects, actually the two alt models preservation projects and some of the new construction projects to have loan documents executed as early as this fall or winter. The department, of course, will be providing metrics on units financed among other data points as required by the measure and providing status updates to this committee. Lastly, it's important to note that we are very aware of the tax credit deadline on May 19th for the 14 projects in our NOFA that are seeking those credits. We have informed all council partners of this, and we have requested that this go forthwith next week. Any other information you can transmit to decision makers in the city would be great. We would be grateful for. And that concludes the presentation. I've talked a lot. I want to address the public comments that were made, but want to pause for a second to answer any immediate questions that you all have.
Can you just repeat the question in your mic?
Green light. Green light. There. Green, there. No. There.
I was going to suggest going ahead and addressing the public comments first before the questions.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
So thank you all for being here. It's important that we hear from you, and this is what real feedback looks like. So thank you. I want to open by saying we can't get into the details of every project application, but I can talk a little bit about what applicants were required to submit if they were proposing any sort of demolition. So all applicants were required to submit a relocation plan, which describes how the project would temporarily relocate tenants during any sort of new construction. And then once that unit is done being constructed, that tenant that was living there has the right of first refusal on that unit. Also, the regulations that were approved by council that were written in coordination with the guidelines require a one-to-one replacement for units that get demolished, which would mean that we're not accepting projects that propose redevelopment that have a net loss of units in them. And ultimately, we're open to feedback. If, we need to make changes, we want to hear it. But that's what is required by our regulations in terms of redevelopment projects right now. So Callie, did you want to add anything? I can't speak to those project.
I'm gonna just advise that we don't engage in a one-to-one debate in open session. We'll have, you'll make your clarifying comments, and then if we need to address it and discuss it in, further, we can always, aside from what's gonna be discussed today, we can always agendize this particular item on a future agenda.
Thank you for that.
Was there any requirements on AMI for the replacement units or redevelopment? So does it, people who can come back, is it at the same level, AMI or same rent levels?
It's a like for like replacement, so it's the same.
Thank you so much. I saw another hand on this side of the table. Green light.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay, for the relocation requirements, what about for like, students who are in districts? I know a lot of the people we're talking about kids, like, does that like change the school that they attend or like stuff like that? Like, is there any requirements for keeping them in the same school district? Because especially for like kids, young kids, like maybe like there's learning a new language, just made friends. Are there any requirements for those?
That's a great question. We don't speak to that exactly in our regulations, but we do require that there's a certain, the location that they're being relocated is within a certain mile radius of where they were previously living. But that's a really good point, and I appreciate that feedback.
Thank you so much. You were able to answer two out of the questions that I had. The next one, is there an estimated time that the individuals are going to be relocated? So how long is this project going to take, and how long are they going to be displaced?
I don't have that information right now. I'll have to get back to you.
The redevelopment of Jordan Downs started in 2017 and it's still not done. These projects take upwards of 10 years.
Thank you.
Jordan Downs is not being recommended as an awardee for this, although they are being recommended as an alternate.
It's another project that HACLA also do.
For any more comments, can we have a comment card as opposed to?
You close public comment. It's obviously your discretion to reopen public comment, but
Can we also revisit this with more questions at our next meeting and
course.
re-agendize this?
yes.
This conversation is not over. Thank you.
Sorry, can I still?
Just so
Please.
loud.
Some are loud and some are not.
Yours
so
is extra
I'll
charge.
try my best to figure out the distance here, but for folks that are below, these are my clarifying questions. For folks that are below the 30% area median income that currently live on the site, those folks, if I'm to the way that you're answering the question, it's like for like, right? So I'm guessing like family size, below 30% AMI, that doesn't matter. As long as they were there, they have first right of refusal to come back. Is that a correct assumption?
I believe so. That's what it says in our regs. And because it's a one-for-one replacement, that means the regulatory agreement doesn't change. But I will get back to you on that.
And then can I ask just one last question that has to do with relocation? And if we don't have the answer, maybe to come back. Like, is there any like guidelines or criteria for how to track relocation, right? Like whether it's 2 years or whether it's 10 years, regardless, right? Like it's difficult to just track people in movement once, they have to be relocated. I'm just wondering if there's any criteria or guidelines for like how to make sure that folks are, keeping in touch and can be located when the time comes.
So when our staff are reviewing these applications, what they're looking for is that the amount of recapitalization or redevelopment that's happening. So let's say the developer is proposing maybe a 2-year timeline with certain types of redevelopment features. That relocation plan needs to be adequately funded to support relocation for the period of time in which the tenants will not be in their unit. So that's what they're looking for. I hope that maybe answers your question. I don't know, Maya or Callie, if you wanted to add to that. No? Okay.
I just had one question. Is there anybody translating for the public that's here? All right, thank you. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
I think it did answer, well, it answered a different question. But it was helpful in terms of like, you know, if there's enough funds for like relocation, like that has to be budgeted, so that's helpful. I guess like maybe for like, if we agendize this in the future, I guess I'd be just curious in terms of like, how is it that we feel good about people being relocated, being kept in contact with, to ensure that they're able to come back, right? Like I understand that there's also an aspect of like folks need to be in touch, right? But I think it goes a long way just to have like criteria and guidelines for developers for making sure that that's a thing, if that's a thing. And if that's not a thing, then it's also helpful for us to I think know.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, no. Bye-bye. Keeping me abreast. Green light.
Okay.
Perfect.
Couple questions. One, we say guidelines. When these applications are submitted, you know, you say it's 1-to-1. When they have to submit these applications, does it say like such and such will be relocated to this place? Like, or is it just a promise that there is funding to relocate these people, and then in actuality, we have no idea where they're going to get sent? And then the second, what, if any, are the enforcement mechanisms to make sure that these developers do indeed make sure that these people are placed into adequate units and aren't completely displaced? Because again, there's one thing between guidelines, but I think, again, Tahoe or any of these things wouldn't exist if developers, landlords, et cetera, kept to guidelines. So to me, I need to see requirements like this person is going to this unit at this location, and if this developer doesn't hit these marks, they're losing their funding or something. Like we cannot just be willy-nilly like moving people from one place to another without tracking them, without reassurances, and without enforcement models.
I'd also like to just interject here regarding relocation. Is there a possibility that anytime there's a developer and it involves demolition and relocation, that the plan that they submit be given to those of us so we can review it as well? Because there's a lot of questions. I've actually had to personally write a development plan, and I wasn't really satisfied with what they were doing to the tenants. And I personally made the calls, found the relocation assignments, and made sure that those location assignments even was adequate for their pets. Because trying to relocate a pet or house a pet, we all know their pet rent could be just as high as human rent. So those location places had to accommodate the person's pet with the family. So I just want to find out, can we review those so the people here on the COC can look at those plans, and then we can ask questions.
Can I might have a suggestion. So these are HACLA developments, right? So it might be worth having HACLA come and present to us regarding the regarding Jordan Downs and San Pedro and Rancho San Pedro.
And thank you so much for
And
that.
I'm not
That was
sure.
my fourth question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. The HACLA redevelopment plans go to their board also for approval. What we control are the regulations for these funding awards. And so I think that's where we can work with you all to improve the language about relocation requirements. in terms of sharing those specific plans, that would be HACLA. And for other developers, I can't speak to that, but the procurement process inside of the department is kind of private because these are sensitive documents that the applicants are submitting to us. But in the case of HACLA, if they're going to the board, those are publicly agendized meetings, I believe. So, yeah.
Thank you. Next question. I think I saw this hand.
I had a question about the relocation funds. Does that include like helping them relocate? Like, I know when I've moved a ton as a kid, it's always been like a big family thing, but I know from public comment, a lot of them were saying how they're old, they have young kids. Like, does that include helping them move furniture, if they have pets, stuff like that?
Also a great question. I don't have the budget in front of me for the relocation plans, but it does include like the rent at a new place for sure. I can get back to you on the incidentals.
Thank you.
It does include moving expenses. I have a question on just relocate, since there's a lot of questions on relocation. Whoever is in charge of reviewing relocation plans at LAHD might be good to have them come and speak to how they're following up and just, in general, Uniform Regulation or Relocation Act questions for the committee.
Thank you for that.
I actually had a question or suggestion about the one of the tables on the numbers, the units that we're supporting with ULA, which are amazing, truly amazing. I wondered if we could clarify. We have said it here, but I'm wanting to sort of pull further distinction between new construction versus preservation and operating assistance. And I don't remember which table it was, but I was like, that would really be helpful. Oh, maybe even by the districts. So just wanting to disaggregate that data just a little bit more.
Sorry, which table?
Awards by council district.
Oh, so instead of it saying total units, it would say total preserved, total new.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's in the transmittal, but we could provide it to you.
Oh, it's in the transmittal. Okay, thank you. So for instance, CD 14, my home, has support for 1,700 units, but there's a good chance all those are operating assistance. So just
Yes. Not all of them are, but
not all, but many.
yeah, we have it with us right now. Not on the screen, but it's in the attachments. But yes, we can do that. Yes.
Just getting clarified again. So essentially, out of 80 projects, only 18 are actual construction projects.
New construction.
New construction.
Mhm.
Yeah. Operating assistance, is that for some level of rehab or is that just supporting?
Yeah, it's a combination of operating assistance, so operating subsidy, and then up to $250,000 in capital
Per project?
per project.
Okay, so basically the 18 really represent new units.
Mhm.
So,
Although in some cases, there are units that are currently not habitable. For example, in a project that may have received operating assistance, and the developer may choose to use a portion of that 250,000 to bring what was a not habitable unit back online. That's not new construction, but it is opening up a new unit for a new person because there wasn't currently a tenant living in it.
I understand that. I just don't want us feeding into a narrative that we provided for 5,000 units of housing. We didn't. Okay, I mean,
Okay.
right, and I'm not negative or, I'm not trying to be, negative about it. I just want to be truthful about it. We're talking about 1,754 new units of housing. And I'm not suggesting that operations is not important because it's very, very important. And represents less than 10% of the money being put out. So no argument there, and it's important, but I just want to make sure that the narrative out there is, 1,700 units of housing. And I'd like to see the 18 actual projects a council district breakout on the 18. Because as I mentioned 2 months ago, you know, my concern is basically, I know geographic distribution was not a priority. I still want to see what the geographic distribution looks like. Because right now, just based on, if you look at the total number, less than 11% of projects and units were in the San Fernando Valley, which is my particular concern. So if we could, I can ask you to kind of give us of the 18, how many were in the valley? And basically districts, council districts 2, 3, 6, 7, and 12. I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yes.
Okay, first of all, because I feel like it's been a little doom and gloom, but congrats on the NOFA. Very exciting. 80 projects hopefully being awarded. In the transmittal, and maybe it's not in there, but I have not fully read it. Does it say how many applications we got per council district? Because I'm wondering if some of the higher cost council districts don't have as many projects because they're more expensive, graded lower on the curve, et cetera.
The transmittal doesn't say that, but I can give that to you. So number of applications received total by council district.
Yeah, because there's obviously, we don't know which ones are,
Yeah.
operating assistants, but there's clearly a big range of 0 to 25 per district.
Yeah.
Yes. Green light.
Hello? Okay. I was wondering for the ULA Emergency Income Support Program, you guys said you had 1,000 applicants. How are you guys like promoting this? Because I don't know, with my vision of LA, 1,000 for this program seems pretty low, especially when it's going to close in like a week. So just like, how are you guys promoting this? If you could promote it differently with,
Excellent question.
yes.
So great question. I wanted to highlight it at this meeting, so hopefully folks listening hear about it and help get the word out with their networks, as well as all of you. But I wish I had like the full rundown of everywhere we've been doing outreach, but this is a program that's being led by the Community Investment for Families Department, or CIFD. So they've been the primary lead on setting up and working on the launch of this program. And one of their key program partners is the Family Source Centers. So there's actually, I believe, 8 Family Source Centers that have been provided additional resources as well. And they've also been working with other partner organizations that are either part of this program or that they've worked with in the past on similar guaranteed income programs to help, working with community-based organizations as well to help with outreach. As well as on socials. I think we've been reaching out to council offices to help share with their networks as well. Trying to do as much outreach as we can. But yeah, I think we also suspect that folks maybe just haven't submitted their applications yet because we still have a week. But yeah, really would like to see some more participation. And so welcome ideas on how we can help get the word out more. And maybe I can get more information on all the places we're doing outreach and share that at a next meeting too.
Thank you. Yes.
Can I just, maybe, there we
Yeah.
go. Okay. 2 things. Well, one's a question. Have we shared, the application window and all of the information on the COCs stuff? Okay, great. And then the second thing I wanted to say, I really do love the spending spotlight. I think that's so great. I'm not sure if we are already doing this, but I think it would be awesome to include like basically exactly how the spending spotlight is done, but as a social media post on the COC's channels. I think it would be really good for people to kind of see that visual, and the public would appreciate that as well. So thank you. I really like the spotlights.
Any more? My last question was just a clarification because I got lost. It was regarding the slide before this one, the funding awards summary. I heard the number 269 fly out, but I didn't understand what it was regarding.
269 was the number of units that will be part of the CLT projects. So let me just verify that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so what I said, 279. So yeah, so there's 5 CLT projects in total between alt models new construction and alt models preservation. And what that represents, 5 projects and 279 units across the 5 projects.
And how does that differ from the 491 and the 43 that's shown on the chart?
The 491 is a total of the number of units awarded in the new construction program, which was 5 projects, 2 CLT, 2 CLT, 3 CLT. And then for alt models preservation, they're all CLT, the 2 projects that were awarded.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right. Are there any more questions?
I have questions.
Oh,
Yeah, I have to figure out how to keep, sorry. Huh? Mine's is on. I think it's because it's probably close to this thing. This is, so yeah, just to follow on Taylor's point, because I think like due diligence on like 80 projects, it's like a ton of work. So just massive shout outs. Just want to bring it back to that. I just had like one more clarification and then kind of wanted to go into like the looking ahead for the round 2. For the ULA operating assistance, like those fundings, just to clarify, also went to expiring covenant as well, like for developments with current expiring covenants, or not at all?
I can't say not at all, but that wasn't the priority for that program. The acquisition and rehab preserving affordability program was targeted more at addressing units that had expiring covenants. Also, as part of the operating assistance program, you know, we are asking them to add more years of affordability to their covenant as well. So really, the acquisition rehab preserving affordability program was designed to save the projects that were on that 10-year timeline of losing affordability.
Right, and that's where like the recommendation around transitioning from like from a loan to a grant is also coming into play as well?
That's more because these projects are operating at deficit right now. And so if we put another loan on them, that means they have to pay us back. But if we give them a grant, they don't have to pay us back.
Right.
So does that make sense?
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
That's super.
And because as it's written, it's a pretty short amount of time. It's 2 years subsidy. Relatively speaking, that's not a very long time. So
Yeah, no, it's not.
yeah.
I'm gonna conflate 2 things that are probably gonna be super confusing, and I think they're probably meant to be separate, but
Okay.
and related to like the amending the assistance for like from loan to a grant structure, and also like looking into like amending the fully amortizing loan requirements for ULA alt models preservation program. Like because part of the, I think, see if I can get it out. Part of the difficulty that like my question regarding last time was like, why isn't there more like alt preservations that are qualified, which you explained has to do with like the debt service. I think you mentioned that today. But I think that these projects are gonna continue to come through like with those hurdles of like not being able to meet that threshold, right? Like, I guess like looking ahead, is there like a way to like expand the amortization period so that they can meet those requirements? Is one question. Well, I guess yeah, maybe that is my question. Is there like another way other than like being like, they don't qualify, they don't meet the threshold, we cannot do these projects? Is there like an alternative way to like?
Yeah, so what the housing department sees as one of the big barriers is that the requirement says the loan has to be fully amortizing. So if we were to remove that requirement, that it doesn't have to be fully amortized, that's just one idea, right?
Right.
You could do something in between, like partially amortizing. If we remove that requirement and ask the developer, known as the borrower, to pay us back, not in a fully amortizing loan, just a normal according to us residual receipts loan repayment structure, which means they pay us back when the project is cash flowing. That may help them feel more confident, and they will likely be, they will make it through threshold because they can demonstrate that they can cover the debt service because that fully amortizing requirement has been removed. This is one of the programs where the department, in our latest iteration of the term sheets, is offering up to 100% of the project cost. What that means is we are giving them all of the money that they need to make the improvements to preserve the units. It's a considerable amount of risk for the lender. So perhaps that's why the amortization requirement was in the guidelines before. And this is potentially an opportunity to provide technical assistance or work in the community, to the development community, to help folks structure application to be fully amortizing if the requirement does stay. But our immediate thought was we should remove the requirement and see if we get more applications, but open to thoughts from the committee and obviously stakeholders that reach out to us.
Not a suggestion, but a comment. I got some feedback that someone that did not win, I guess, their application. They were saying they were so unclear about certain things and the scoring. And I think one or two of them had forgotten a document. And that's understandable. But is there any way that they can find out what they did wrong so they can do better next time? Or is there any TA to assist with that specifically?
Yeah, so we did attach the score sheets to each of the notification letters, which described which documents were missing if they did not pass threshold. They would not have missed any documents if they were scored. If there's an applicant that wants to talk specifically about their application, I believe we can do that to some extent. We're open to that. I think the TA is right now the department. You're looking at the TA. I think ULA has some TA money, say, capacity building funds that are available. But really it would be us, the folks who score the projects, but we want to hear from them. So if they have a specific question, reach out to me or to our AGM and we can filter to the right person.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And to that end, actually, this may be more detail than you asked for, but we did have a little bit of a different scoring criteria this time than we have had in previous affordable housing managed pipelines. In the past, applicants would receive a score, one score. This time they received essentially 3 scores that were combined into one, and you saw the sum. That's what you saw on the council transmittal. Those 3 scores were the accessibility score. So according to our accessibility team and the requirements that we have as a city, did you meet those requirements? And also, did you submit an EAP? And I'm forgetting what that means. Enhanced accessibility plan. A technical score, which is the most points that we were awarding, and that was based on the project's underwriting. Was it cost effective? Is it feasible? Are you meeting, how much money are you asking for? So the real underwriting. And then the sponsor score. This is the first year that we scored the sponsors and what that looks like. And all of this is on our website, but we looked at their real estate owned schedule, which means how well are the other properties in your portfolio doing? We looked at their liquidity. How much cash on hand do you have? And then we looked at developer experience, and that got factored into the overall score. So we're open to doing, communicating all of that differently, or if applicants have requests, but we obviously have more money available. We felt the need to provide more due diligence on the applications that came to us.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Any other questions?
No question not related to
Okay.
Okay.
So I wanted to ask one question regarding expiring covenants. It's my understanding, and I could be off, that the wave of covenants expired and we don't have another wave of expiring covenants for another 10 years or so. Is that a true statement?
I don't know if that's true or not.
Okay.
I think covenants expire all the time. Yeah, if you're thinking about the
Yeah.
CRA covenants, that was back in the 90s.
Yeah.
So it's been 30-ish years.
I think
So yeah, I think that's definitely happening. And under separate cover, the department has reported on this. And we can talk maybe more about that later, but yeah.
Are we good with? Oh, no, please.
Do you have any plans for round two, like timing, 2 times a year, 6 months was when would be like now? So I'm just wondering, I mean, I know you're getting feedback and thinking through that, but
What we told applicants in our letters was late summer, early fall.
okay.
So that's what we're targeting right now. And for future years, I think TBD, but we're open to a schedule. And we're open to a lot of things. We're open to potentially having the NOFA for the programs that rely on tax credits be more on the tax credit timeline. We're open to a rolling NOFA, I think that has been contemplated. So, but for now, what we've been saying publicly is late summer, early fall.
And maybe if I can just add to that, I think a critical piece that needs to come into play before that next round is working with you all on the changes to the guidelines we talked about. So I think hopefully we can work with one of the ad hoc committees to have a more robust conversation and bring something back at our next meeting, maybe as an action item for this committee, and we can work with the IIG team on planning that out. But that is definitely a piece that needs to happen in preparation for the next round of funding. And then we would bring that forward along with the revised NOFA regs to council for approval. So those are sort of some of the steps that need to happen in addition to the stakeholder outreach that we talked about. And if I can just say, I think, we've always said this is our first round and our first time doing many of these programs. And so we always anticipated that we would learn and want to have some refinements. So that is really what this kind of step is. Maybe as the programs are maturing and it becomes a more kind of routine thing, we'll be able to churn them around a lot faster with fewer changes between cycles. So
Fantastic. So for anyone out there listening, round 2 is coming and there's TA available.
And
Of course.
Remind me what the readiness requirements were for this funding. When did we want construction to start if you received round 1?
The awards are good for a year with up to a 1-year extension.
Thanks.
For all programs.
So the idea is they get the ULA funding, go out and get your tax credits, and Bob's your uncle, you have a project.
Yeah, and that's for the new construction.
That easy. Yeah.
Right. I want to say something about the timing and just why it took so long. Not defending, but this was our first crack at the new regulations. So like we had to, essentially take old regs, rewrite them, review them, make sure that they align. So to Callie's point, we have like the blueprint now. It just needs to continue to be refined. So a lot of the groundwork has been done there.
You good? Oh, Barragan, you have the floor.
You mentioned the possibility of us taking a look at the regs in terms of before the next round, right?
Regulations are publicly available. Yes.
Thank you.
That's not what I'm not, no, I'm suggesting that we as a group have input into the regulations and make changes to the regulations before the next round. Right?
Yep.
On the guidelines, yes.
Yeah, the guidelines.
Yeah.
The guidelines, right. So, and would that be a program evaluation or governance?
We're not sure.
Policy?
I think we can discuss, this is Abigail from the IIG. I think we can discuss which committee it makes the most sense to go through. And also if we and we can just think more about timing. Because our next governance ad hoc committee's agenda is a little packed. So just wanting to be mindful of folks' capacity to meet and everything. But I think, yes, one of the ad hoc committees it'll be well suited for.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we are able to have at least a conversation and have some, maybe I make some kind of recommendation, some kind of take some action prior to the next RFP release.
Yes, definitely. And sorry, I wasn't being clear. The guidelines are developed in large part by this body and inform the regulations which are developed by the department. So there's just a slight difference there. That's all.
Okay.
Everyone okay? Sure.
I'm so sorry.
Vice Chair, you have the floor.
Are the loan docs already, this is kind of a nudgy question, but are the loan docs for all of the programs already drafted? I think you addressed it earlier.
We're drafting them now.
Okay.
And at one point, our APM was interested in having them be publicly available on our website. So I think that's the direction that we're headed in.
Awesome.
Although for the operating assistance program, if we transition to a grant, then we'll be uploading a new set of documents for that. But that wouldn't be until round 2.
But we will it'll probably have implications for the recipients from round 1 if it gets moved from, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
So the operating assistance folks from round 1 only some received loans, some received grants.
No, they all received loans. The comment made at the committee meeting, I think Joseph was maybe conflating things. For operating assistance for round 1 of the ULA funds, those are loans because they had to be based on what the ULA guidelines and the regs say. For round 2, I mean, we haven't even talked about if the same projects apply for more operating assistance. What is the policy going to be? And that's really on us, the department, to figure out. But yeah.
And there is some way to evaluate whether they made good use of funds the first round, right? Even if they apply for a second round or a second loan. Second loan, sorry.
Sorry. If they applied for funds in round 1, those are the funds that they have to spend from round 1. We expect them to spend them within the 2-year period that they've been awarded for. Sorry, I don't know if that was your question.
No.
Question about sponsor underwriting. Did that apply to round 1 operating assistance? And if so, the answer would have been yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I think so.
So they for sponsor underwriting, they looked at the liquidity of the sponsor and the health of the REO schedule, the real estate owned schedule.
And the experience and okay.
Yeah.
That was the list. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So that concludes item number 7. And we can take and move on to item number 8, our fiscal year 2026-2027 ULA expenditure plan. All right. And I am going to turn it back over to our Los Angeles Housing Department.
Okay. Hello again. I'm just getting to the slide deck. Okay. So it's yet again the time of the year where the department works to prepare our annual ULA expenditure plan. And as you'll hear during this report, this has been, as we've kind of talked about in prior meetings, this has been a record-breaking year of revenue collection. So what that means is that we're poised to allocate the highest level of funding to ULA programs next year than ever before. So before I hand the presentation over to Maya Aboud, who is the Senior Housing Planning and Economic Analyst, leading much of our ULA-related data monitoring and reporting work here at the department, I'll give just a very brief bit of background. So for those of you who have not been part of this process yet as members of the committee, what is required by the ULA measure is that by no later than July 1st of each year, the department
presents a proposed expenditure plan to the Citizen Oversight Committee before forwarding it on to the mayor and the city council for their approval. And while the COC does not take a formal action on the expenditure plan, we do present it to you every year at this time for your review, comment, and ask for your endorsement. And so the agenda packet before you includes the detailed report with the proposed expenditure plan. But I'll now hand it over to Maya to give you a summary of that report.
Thank you. Okay. Can everyone hear me? All right. Good afternoon. I'm Maya Bood with LAHD, and we are going to talk about our expenditure plan for the fiscal year 2026 to 2027. So the expenditure plan includes a accounting of the ULA revenue collected from the previous fiscal year. So that's fiscal year 2025 to 2026, which was July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2026. Based on that revenue, funds are allocated to ULA admin and programs as part of the expenditure plan for this coming fiscal year. We also include projected revenue and expenditure for the 2 subsequent years. That's 2027, 28, and 28 and 29. For the sake of today's presentation, I will not be getting into detail on those plans. They are just projections, but the tables are included as an attachment if you want to review them. And again, the expenditure plan is determined based on the revenue collected from the previous year. So we are not allocating revenue we haven't collected. We are allocating the revenue that's already collected. This slide shows the ULA revenue available for expenditure planning in each fiscal year. So we are now in our 4th fiscal year. We've been doing this for 4 years. I wonder if is there like a, oops, go back. There we are. There's not a pointer. Okay. All right. Well, you can see we're in year 2026, 2027. And every year we've been increasing. And as Callie said, we're in a record-breaking year of 520 million, almost 521 million. This amount reflects the ULA tax revenue received for the first 9 months, the actual amount received for those first 9 months, which was approximately 495 million, plus a forecast for the remaining 3 months, since we haven't yet collected that revenue. So that's April, May, and June. And for the purposes of this expenditure plan, we were extra conservative. We took the monthly average from February and March, which was some of our lower years that we expect maybe because of some of these conversations about changes to Measure ULA might have dipped revenue. So we took the average for those 2 years, for those 2 months to project out for the 3 months that remain for the fiscal year. So this is likely a very conservative number. We may see more revenue than is reflected here. If we do have more revenue, we just save it for the next year and allocate it as part of the next fiscal year. In addition, the 521 million includes interest revenue. We had 14.6 million in interest. And then we also forecast out the projected interest for those 3 months that we don't have. Yes. For this fiscal year, like I said, if we are always more conservative in our estimates, or we try to be very conservative. So for this fiscal year, we had 10 million in unappropriated funds from the previous fiscal year that we're including as part of this expenditure plan. Okay. So looking at this chart, you can see that we have more, you can just see the visual representation of the increase in funds that we have this year, which is exciting for all of us. We have more than 88 million in funding directly for programmatic expenses. Now moving on, we're going to look at the cumulative amount of money that you all have allocated for expenditures. This is since the beginning of the measure. We have allocated, or as part of our expenditure plan, almost $743 million in accordance with the ballot measure. So again, that $743 million is reflective of these 4 prior years. Okay. And you can see that 8%, all of these allocation percentages are required by the ballot measure. So 8% goes to admin and 92% of that funding goes to programs. Of that, 70% of program funds go for affordable housing, 30%, you can see this, it's annoying without the pointer. You can see at the bottom of the slide, 70% is going to the affordable housing programs and 30% for homeless prevention programs. You may remember in previous years' expenditure plans that this was a more complicated exercise because there was this true-up process that again, if we go back here, you can see that first year we allocated $150 million, and that was primarily for admin and for only 6 of the 11 programs. So because that first year we didn't have everything ramped up and running, we had to true up the amounts every year subsequently in order to rebalance back to the expenditure, the allocation percentages required by the ballot measure. But now we are fully trued up. And so this process is much more simple. We just take our total amount and we apply the required allocation percentages. So now we're going to get into this year's plan. So you can see, like Kelly said, almost $521 million. That's represented in this bar chart on the left. About $42 million is for admin, and over $479 million is directly for programs. Of that admin expenses, or of the admin that will be part of the expenditure plan, $1.25 million is available for the Citizens Oversight Committee budget. That's currently being discussed in the Governance Ad Hoc Committee, and you will be discussing that more as we go along. The remainder is for admin that supports staffing costs, including salaries, leasing space, equipment, as well as administrative expenses for ULA implementation, including systems contracts and printing and binding for our outreach and education. And of the $479 million that's going directly to programmatic expenses, not programmatic allocation, not admin, 70% or roughly $335 million is for affordable housing production, preservation, and other related programs. Again, like I said, because we're in this true-up process, this number just gets administered based on the prescribed percent allocations in the ballot measure. So for multifamily affordable housing and alternative models for permanent affordable housing, both receive 22.5% of funds per the ballot measure and are subsequently receiving $108 million each. Acquisition and rehab and homeownership capacity building, operating assistance receive 10% for a combined total of about $48 million. And the Program Stabilization Fund receives 5% for a total of $24 million. And you can see that this breaks down further into the sub-programs. These percentages, particularly for alt models and acquisition rehab, these like sub-programs that you see, those percentages are based on guidelines, not on the ballot measure. So there is flexibility with that. As Hannah was talking about, if one program is not oversubscribed, they might reallocate within those same buckets because it's allowable by the allocation in the ballot measure. For operating assistance, at least 50% of for this category, homeownership opportunities, capacity building, and operating assistance, there is prescriptive language in the ballot measure, and at least 50% of this program must go to operating assistance, and at least 10% must go to capacity building. So that's a little more rigid, but these other programs, you're seeing more flexibility to change funds within them. And for our homelessness prevention programs, you can see the bar chart on the left that approximately $144 million this year will be allocated for homelessness prevention programs. That includes emergency assistance, which receives 5% of the funds for a total of $24 million. Income support and eviction defense prevention both receive 10% for a total of $48 million approximately each. Tenant outreach and education receive 2% for a total of $9.5 million. And protection from tenant harassment receives 3% of the funds for a total of $14.3 million. So again, these are very straightforward allocations just per the ballot measure this year. And that concludes the presentation. There are additional slides at the end that deal with the projected revenue for future years. Again, this is just projected revenue and very conservative. And following today's discussion, we will be finalizing the draft expenditure plan, submitting to the mayor and city council for approval. And we will also be submitting some implementation related requests to make sure that we can expand our contracts and implement the expenditure plan accordingly.
Well, thank you so much. You made it very easy to follow. I appreciate that. And I love the graphs. Are there any questions?
Clarifying question.
Yes.
Just because I wasn't here for the first time. What's the difference between the eviction defense prevention funds and then the protection from tenant harassment funds?
Eviction defense prevention funds, that's part of the EDP contract. The protection from tenant harassment, and Callie, correct me if I'm wrong, includes both contracted outreach services as well as funding for staff at LAHD to respond to allegations of tenant harassment, and as well as staff at the city attorney's office.
Tahoe Task Force.
Yes, exactly.
I can expand on that as well, right? So they're both two pieces of the critical homelessness prevention work, right? So the eviction defense and prevention program is basically the legal services for tenants who are imminently facing eviction, whereas the protections from tenant harassment is related to the Tahoe program. There is also a contract under that that's funded by that program bucket for affirmative legal defense. That's the contract with Inner City Law that I believe is still is working its way through completion of execution right now. But two critical pieces of the homelessness prevention work, but eviction defense and prevention is like legal services component.
That was too fast for me, sorry. So
okay.
Okay, so we've got, so State House LA
State House LA.
exists in which space? Which of these spaces?
Inner City Law.
Let me do that again. So the eviction defense and prevention program is the program bucket that funds the eviction defense program. So that in the sphere of the contracts that we have, right, that is the contract with Legal Aid Foundation. Then the contract, I made it more confusing, but there's an additional contract under the protections from tenant harassment program, which is the affirmative defense for specifically related to Tahoe cases. But that bucket down there, protections from tenant harassment, is specific to Tahoe.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about State House delay,
It includes eviction defense for the legal defense, as well as outreach and education for the nonprofit provider.
There you go.
And when we talk about LAFLA, that is tenant outreach and education.
LAFLA is eviction defense.
Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, legal aid. You said legal aid, sorry.
Legal aid. Their contract, but State House LA.
This is like my sheer curiosity, but like, is there like, are there like touch points between like eviction defense prevention and then like actual humans? And then the humans that do the protection from tenant harassment, is there like any overlap, any like by department or? Yeah.
Yes, some of the contractors are funded by both programs. So there might be literally the same people in the same room that are providing services between tenant outreach and education, which is broader, and protection from tenant harassment. So yeah, for the contracted services, they are often working together. And for our staff, they are the staff that are at LAHD that are funded for the Tahoe program are also working closely on other issues like illegal rent increases, et cetera, that might come up as part of outreach and education.
But there's no like funnel, right? Like between like the Tahoe program and the eviction defense program, like, is there like, yeah, like, I guess. Sorry, I hope this makes sense. Like, I guess I'm wondering if there's like folks that like are actually engaging, that are working with like folks that are facing any type of harassment that may lead to potential evictions, that like are directly connected to like folks from like LAHSA through like the eviction defense prevention. Like, is there like a funnel of that, like, or maybe it doesn't work like that? Sorry, I'm still new here, I feel.
For the contracted providers, I would say often there's a referral made to the State House Delay program, which includes the legal services provided through eviction defense. So if they're coming in through the contracted provider, they're seeking assistance, go to a tenant clinic, they ask for help, they say, or they're identified as needing assistance because of harassment. They will likely have other referrals if they're facing eviction as well. So they would be referred, if qualified, to the legal service providers as well. But part of our program evaluation is we're looking at this. So we're looking deeply into the Tahoe program, and we can see, we started with the long list of questions that you guys gave us last meeting, but we can also look and see what is the experience of tenants. And this might be a good question for an outside evaluator too, is what are the relationships between the programs and how do tenants navigate between them?
Thank you, that was helpful. Appreciate it.
Yeah, how would I open up the comment for another minute? How would we do that?
Are you referring to Mr. Woodfine, who's raising his hand?
Yeah, he's experienced quite a few programs.
Is this a question for staff or?
About programs and how tenants deal with it.
Okay, would you want to hear his comment after the meeting? That way we can just go ahead and. Yeah.
Okay, one-on-one.
He's available after.
Oh.
Yeah, okay. All right. Are there any more questions for item number 8?
Actually, I do have questions.
Oh, yes, please, Vice Chair, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. This has come up before, so I want to make sure everybody's super clear. So the COC is supported by this 1.2 million of funding. So I just want to make that super clear to everybody here at the table. Our staff is supported by these funds. And also our money for the audit, money for the program evaluation study, and the town hall meeting. What did I miss?
Parking.
Member stipends are also included in that. Right now, we can kind of allocate how we want and need to with that money. So that's what we'll talk about in the next governance ad hoc meeting. But I think those, and then also communications too. So what Commissioner Romero was discussing earlier, like, yeah, if we want to do any like paid media or advertising for any of those pieces, that would be supported by that budget as well.
May I add one additional point on this? Your budget to actuals report shows your remaining balance within your fund account currently. For the COC budget, but for all of the program categories, those funds roll over to subsequent years. So one of the things that was included, this is sort of going beyond the scope of the expenditure plan, but since we're talking about your budget and previewing the next month's conversation, one of the things that was included in the COC's budget for this year was a set aside of staff funding for the permanent staff, which as I shared earlier in this meeting, right, we're still in the process of staffing up. We're now going to be doing interviews shortly, but so we'll have some long story short is we'll have some savings from this current year's allocation for y'all to budget for this upcoming fiscal year as well. So just so folks are aware for when we get to the budget conversation next month.
One more point question about the budget conversation. Your contract, Ms. Delano contract is through what date again?
September.
September. Okay. Okay. Just.
Any more questions or comments? Beautiful presentation on our budget. Thank you. So that will conclude item number 8. And therefore we can take and move forward to item number 9, our Los Angeles Housing Department update on the council file number 26-0088, analysis of programmatic funding impacts ULA Ad Hoc Committees.
Yes, good afternoon, Maya again.
Hello.
Hello. As you may know, Council adopted Council Motion 26-0088-S1, which instructed the Housing Department to report back on an analysis of potential impacts of proposed changes to ULA, including the impacts on ULA revenues, programmatic impacts, and impacts for the outcomes of tenants and households served by ULA programs. So what this motion was asking us to do is to take the proposal that came from CD4 about changing some of the exemptions in Measure ULA and to evaluate the impact it would have. And as a reminder, that proposal included an exemption for properties that were sold within 15 years of the latest certificate of occupancy, excluding single family, duplex, and triplex. So anything else, including commercial, industrial, multifamily, that was sold within 15 years of the latest certificate of occupancy. That was the proposal for an exemption, and also an exemption for properties impacted by a natural disaster, including a retroactive exemption for properties sold in the fire impacted areas. That was the proposal by council, and this motion was asking us to evaluate the impacts. So we are working on that. We are beginning by taking all of the transactions that we have seen up to this point. We were able to find the matching records of the kind of property it was, the year it was built, and we are looking, this is not a perfect methodology, but we're looking at these past transactions to try and project into the future. So we are looking at the amount of revenue we would have lost based on these exemption criteria. We are not done with that analysis. We are hoping to transmit by the end of this month within the 15-day period we were given by council. But I do want to flag a couple of things that we also flagged for City Council for the Ad Hoc Committee that we have learned while doing this analysis. And one of them is that phrasing really matters and the precise terms really matter. So in the current proposal, it says the latest certificate of occupancy. That is different than the first certificate of occupancy. So we have been diligently now trying to match building and safety certificate of occupancy data with our past transactions, because a project may have been built in 1920, but have done some work or done something to trigger a new C of O, certificate of occupancy, that would allow for that exemption. So we have been modeling that, and it is a broader universe than an original certificate of occupancy. So that's one example. Another example is that we might have a bundle of properties sold. So for example, we see entire portfolios selling that may have different types of properties within them. Based on the current language, we wouldn't know how to treat those because, again, it's based on the use of the property. But if you have multiple properties transacting in one transaction with one sale price, we wouldn't know how to treat those. And similarly, there's transactions that may have one parcel, but multiple use types. So we've kind of seen all of these iterations in the data, and that is a kind of technical expertise that we want to make sure is available as different proposals are being evaluated. So we have expressed to the ad hoc that the housing department is here to provide assistance, and that based on our knowledge of the transactions, we can help create precise language that reflects the intent of whatever proposals there might be, and make sure that we know how it would be implemented. And we will also be bringing our ultimate report to you for your consideration. Again, our report's not making any decisions. We are just modeling what was already proposed. If there are future proposals, we hope to be able to model those as well. And that is where we are.
Thank you for that. Any questions?
So any reduction in revenue because of the exemptions would have to be applied in the percentages included in the ordinance, right?
Yes. So the way we are the transactions that we assume would be exempt. And then the reduction in revenue we apply through that tier of the different percent allocations. And then we have kind of a per unit estimate that we apply to like how many fewer units there might be based on just averages. It's a very kind of crude methodology, but just logic, like the per unit cost we apply to the reduced revenue for that percent category. The number of tenants served in legal defense we apply to that category. So that's what we're in the process of.
I feel for you and thank you for your work. Any more questions? No? You have the floor.
I wondered if a big topic of, I'm going to, I think, make an editorial comment, but it's directly related to this line of questioning. So the governor's debate last night, I don't know if, anyway, there was a fair amount of discussion about preventing people from going into homelessness. And so just wanting to draw the connection between exempting transactions in the city of LA and the trickle down effect to programs that are designed to
provide.
Yeah, well, keep people from becoming homeless.
Mm-hmm.
So just an editorial comment.
Plus one. Okay. Oh, okay. Kudos. Okay. Any more questions or comments? No? So that will conclude, and thank you so much. Item number 9, and we can proceed to item number 10, which is any future agenda items. And then we have some pending already. Do we have a list of what those already are for the future agenda?
Yeah, so the we're planning to have Tahoe staff report back at a future meeting, based on the upcoming conversations, that we'll be having in our ad hoc committees as well. So that's kind of the biggest pending item.
Okay, any more additions?
When do we hear back from the conversation we just had around the?
Okay, and we can agendize that for discussion? Yes.
Okay, can I just ask to be on the ad hoc meeting that talks about the rate? Because I want to look at those as well. That was it.
Yes, she doesn't, she's not a voter.
But she can give an opinion.
Right, I know.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Okay.
I think relocation was a big one that we need to bring back to a future meeting, HACLA and LHD, just because we didn't verbalize it yet.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is something that needs to go to an ad hoc governance or something, but similarly to how several months ago we updated the language, I think was it for the income support program to include individuals who had been affected by the LA ice raids, as well as individuals who had been affected by the wildfires. I would like to have a discussion to see if we could add those individuals of mixed status housing who are now losing any federal subsidies, and seeing how we can use ULA funds to support those individuals to prevent them from going into homelessness.
I'd like to have that discussion as well. Great. Okay, that will conclude item number 10, future agenda items. And that will close item number 10. And before I go to item number 11, I just wanted to say thank you to all of the presenters and all of the hard work and all of the reports that were done here. I really appreciate it. I also want to say thank you to our staff and those that work really, really hard. And I know sometimes it's trying. I also want to say thanks to those that are on the COC that have the knowledge, my number crunchers, my developers, my legal persons, my tenant advocates, and definitely my youth, because their voices need to be represented. And I really appreciate all of you. And so with that, can I move to item number 11, which is adjournment?
Move adjournment.
Oh, that was
Second.
a first and a second. There we go. Everyone enjoy the rest of your evening.